ASP.NET gives you a lot of options in the area of the language to be used. But I want to hit on a couple of really important items here. There's been a fair amount of misinformation or confusion out there in the early stages of the .NET framework, and especially ASP.NET, about the languages and which ones are being used and are defaults and so forth. First of all, the first point, VB.NET is the default language for ASP.NET. You don't have to mention it in the language directives and so forth. It understands that. Now, what happened to VBScript or JavaScript? Are these needed anymore? The answer is a definite yes and no. It depends on exactly what you want to do with it. Now, on the client side, if you still want to run client-side script, and this is the beauty of ASP.NET, it is now very efficient to decide, do I want to run script on the client side or do I want to run some programming on the server side? Because if you still want to do client-side scripting, say checking to make sure that all text boxes have been filled or that they're within a certain range or so forth, and you don't want to make a trip back to the server, then feel free to go ahead and use VBScript and JavaScript. Nothing has changed there. On the server side, generally it's better to use ASP.NET because, or to simply handle this on the server side, because ASP.NET is going to compile this and make it a lot faster and more efficient. And also we can take advantage of caching and so forth. But also keep in mind that we can run VBScript or JavaScript on the server side if we'd like. None of that has changed. The functionality is still there, and it's totally your choice. Now, the .NET framework has introduced some very interesting aspects to this whole language question. First of all, the .NET framework has allowed Visual Basic to grow up. I think the days are fast coming to an end when you're in a bookstore or when you're in a meeting with colleagues and they say, are you a developer? And you say, yeah, sure, I do Visual Basic. And they kind of smirk and say, well, you're not really a programmer. And that's because of a lot of the things that Visual Basic did for you. And VB.NET takes Visual Basic up into a truly object-oriented, much more object-oriented world where you have a lot of control over things that you just simply didn't have in Visual Basic. So the .NET framework brings that to the table. Also, any language that you're using that's in the .NET framework exposes all the .NET framework classes and namespaces, which means the myriads of classes and functionalities, and this includes what used to be the API calls in the old development platform, are now available to you in your web pages through the .NET framework. So again, I hate to give you something else to learn and something else to read, but you know how that goes. Quit wasting that time between midnight and 4 every night, and read up on the .NET framework. And we're going to talk about the .NET framework and give you a real quick overview in an upcoming video very shortly. So when it comes to language, which one do you choose then? Do you choose VBNet, VBScript, JavaScript, C#? It really depends on what language you've been using in the past. If you're coming from a Java background or a C background, then C# is the way to go. If you're coming from a Visual Basic background, VBNet's the way to go. Because thanks to the Microsoft Intermediate Language now, both of those languages get pre-compiled down to the same exact language. So you're not really picking up any inherent advantages in C# over VBNet. You're just picking up a different flavor, a different way to get to the same place. Now, a lot of C people will still hang on to C, and that's a good thing. And they will find C easier to do some of the more complex things in development. And that's cool as well. You can get to most of those, 99% of those, through VisualBasic.net. But we're not going to get in any deeper than that. Languages, Microsoft's done an excellent job of giving you plenty of options. Just remember, VB.NET is the default. You can still use the scripting languages if you would like. And so use all these as tools in your developer toolbox to create the application that's most efficient for your clients.